And then let's talk about the 2016-ness of it all, because in researching for this episode or refamiliarizing myself with the event, should I say, I was reminded of that year and how. Do you remember there was a big thing about like, oh, worst year ever, 2016, please go away. Like, we hate this. 2017 is going to be so much as if. And the main reason when I was looking at it was because there were a lot of celebrity deaths. Mm-hmm. And that seems almost, not to minimize them, but almost quaint today.
It's true.
Given what's happened since the timeline shifted.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were watching like a Hank Green video, and he said in 2016, him and his brother, John, made a t-shirt that said like dumpster fire year 2016.
Yes, exactly.
And then ever since, they've made a more extreme shirt, because ever since 2016, the years have been increasingly dumpster fire-ish. And...
Or at least that's been the perception of it. Some other notes about 2016 that I was kind of recapping.
Okay.
The year of Pokemon Go.
True.
Or the summer of Pokemon Go, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
What a peak. Hamilton. Other big memes of the year were the Arthur Fist. Evil Kermit. Do you know that one where he's like talking to the Darth Vader version of himself?
Yeah.
Or the Star Warsy version of himself? Damn Daniel, which I had thought was like...
Much older than
that. And there were some other small things like a big US election, Brexit votes, various other political happenings around the world, North Korea missile testing and all that kind of stuff. But I think 2016 is kind of like our generation's big year. It was this confluence of things, and for you and I particularly, and I also have a hunch most of the people engaging in the Harambe meme, or that kind of quote-unquote discourse online, we were in somewhat peak years to be receptive to world news and pop culture, because we were like 17, 16. It was the first ever kind of election that we had followed, or news cycle that I had ever really engaged in. And I really think that was the case for a lot of people. This was their introduction. And so it makes sense that they would consider everything before that the age of innocence, and everything afterwards some downhill slide, or as the meme goes, timeline shift. We should describe that.
Yeah.
Or explain that.
So basically, it's a very small meme. I found the origin of it, which is Adult Swim, which is like that Cartoon Network situation.
Yeah.
They tweeted a picture and it said, "This could have been avoided." And it was the timeline up until 2016 when Harambe died. And then it split and it went the route where there's COVID, where there's the war in Ukraine, where there's all of these like terrible things that have happened over the last few years. And then the other split was like, deforestation is reversed. First lunar colony.
Yeah.
Not world peace, but it was all just like these kind of other things.
If everything went really well.
Yeah.
So it's the butterfly effect moment, basically. Yeah, I'd mentioned doing an episode based on that, thinking it was a much wider phenomenon, but I realized there were I just seen one picture about it and was like, oh, look at this. Everybody thinks this. But that's what the internet does, I guess, is amplify things at your own kind of discretion or perception.
However, ever since you introduced that concept to me, I've found it kind of useful to articulate things. It also goes back to, you know, the show Community?
Yes, yes.
Maybe people listening have also watched that. There was an episode where the whole episode was just the 6 friends. They roll a dice, and each number corresponds to a friend, and whoever's number is rolled, they have to go pick up a pizza. And so the episode goes through the 6 different timeline options of what happens, and one of them is called the darkest timeline, when everyone dies, the world ends, basically. And that meme was kind of before this Harambe one, but I also like the idea of like the darkest timeline as a way to sometimes articulate. It's almost unfathomable how bad things can like keep becoming. And as we often talk about on this podcast, every generation probably thinks that they're like in the end times. It's always been a thing ever since Jesus died on the cross. Everyone's like, it's the end times. So I think the darkest timeline is kind of our generation's apocalypse.
Yeah, though that Community, you mean that's the phrasing of it? Because it's a kind of a secular phrasing of it. Darkest timeline, timelines itself. It's this kind of like, though that Community episode aired before the Harambe event, so you said, it's the same postmodern kind of self-aware or meta storytelling that I think the internet has really escalated. And even last week, I was watching the new Spider-Verse movie. Well, I guess not 8 years late, 1 year late, because that came out last year. But I was watching it, and the whole crux of the story is about this Spider-Man being told that actually he has to let certain personal tragedies happen so that he can become Spider-Man, because that's written in the canon. It's a canon event, so they say. So it's kind of a meme I saw about Harambe's death was a canon event. Basically, it's this removed perspective where you look at things as if you're an alien or something, or like a historian 1,000 years after the facts. I think that point of view pretty much sums up the way a lot of memes are. You know what I mean? They're not kind of taking a personal involvement in it. It's kind of like a detached, almost sociological microscope that we look at things like that, even if they make us laugh.
I think with the rise of the internet and our exposure to so many things, the incongruity theory of why humans laugh really comes to the surface.
Okay.
And that theory is that the reason we laugh is to signal something has changed. So perhaps pre-language, okay, I'm set guard. Everyone's like, oh no, there's someone coming, like someone's coming to invade our land. But then I start to laugh because it's actually just Philip who lives in the city, but he was wearing like a funny coat.
Yeah.
And my laughter signals stand down, never mind. Like there's an incongruity. And I think because of how, as children, our expectations of the world is pretty like Disneyified. Like we're prepared for tragedy to an extent, but then when you see just like mass death on the internet or something as violent as like seeing a live video of some animal being killed, your reaction is to joke as a way to cope with it, but also as just like a natural reaction. And it's not saying that we're all cruel and that we're all desensitized, but it's just like we don't exactly have any programmed way of dealing with these events.
Yeah, something you mentioned to me a few days ago was about Bambi. Kids cry less now when they watch Bambi than when it first aired.
Interestingly, I tried to find that study because I read that a long time ago.
So in other words, it's another thing that you made up.
No, but I definitely read a study on it, but I just think it was so long ago that I couldn't find it.
Was it a study or was it a Facebook post?
No, it was a study.
Okay. I believe it in any case, so it may as well be true.
Yeah, well, I found it while researching for some kind of like university paper, so it probably was on like Google Scholar or something instead of just normal Google. But another thing about the internet exposing us to all of these things, when you were saying like about when we're going to look back on this in 100 years, is...
But we do that in real time to a degree is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that as well. But I think we look at it and we see, okay, this is significant, but we don't exactly know why. And I saw with this timeline theory saying, well, it had this like really low level psychological impact on us all. I
think it's the timing of it. I really think it's the timing of it. And because it was like the Trump year, and there was all this talk about post-truth. And, you know, in the same vein, now we have like deep fakes and just general technological craziness. And I was just thinking, like, if you were making some kind of short film or montage or edit about the 2000, like the year 2000 onwards, you would include some snippets of the Harambe video, and it would be sad, but it wouldn't be sad because of the guerrilla. I mean, that's sad, but it wouldn't just be sad because of that. It would also be sad for what it represents, which is how we live online now.